Every morning he sat at the same corner table, sipping his coffee, looking at the old photo in his hand. Customers saw him as just an old, lonely man. Until a young soldier saw his own father in that photo. The photo was taken 25 years ago, and his father never came home from that war. Welcome to the Hidden Page Stories. Before we begin this touching story, tell us in the comments what city you're watching from today, and if you believe stories like this need to be heard, hit that subscribe button to help keep these stories alive. The Morning Brew coffee shop in Seattle's Capitol Hill neighborhood woke up to the same ritual every morning. Doors opened at 6:30, first customers began to arrive. Office workers heading to work, university students, retirees. Everyone had their own corner, their own routine. The corner table by the window belonged to the same man every morning. Arthur Coleman, 74 years old, slender build, gray hair neatly combed. He always ordered the same coffee, large Americano, no sugar, no milk. And he always brought the same thing, an old, faded photograph he pulled from his wallet. Arthur would arrive at 7 a.m. and stay until the coffee shop closed in the evening. He'd occasionally read a newspaper, flip through a book, but mostly he'd look at the photograph in his hand. Black and white, corners worn, middle slightly creased. No one had ever asked what the photo was. The baristas respected him. "Mr. Coleman," they'd say. "The usual?" He'd politely nod. Customers recognized him but didn't talk to him. Just an old, lonely man. Maybe he'd lost his wife, maybe his children lived far away. Everyone had their own theory, but no one asked for the truth. Arthur's table was in the quietest corner of the coffee shop. He could watch people passing by on the street, but no one would disturb him. He'd sit for hours looking at the photograph. Sometimes his eyes would well up, sometimes he'd smile. But he never spoke. That Tuesday morning was like any other. Arthur had taken his place, gotten his coffee, pulled out his photograph. Around 8:30, the door chimed and a young man entered. Miguel Rodriguez, 26 years old, wearing a U.S. Army uniform. It was his day off, he'd returned to base that evening. When he entered the coffee shop, he looked tired. It had been 3 weeks since he returned from Afghanistan, still trying to adjust. "One coffee, please," he said to the cashier. "What kind?" "Large, black." "I'll leave the rest to you." Miguel looked around as he got his coffee. A quiet place, no noise. Exactly what he needed. He looked for an empty table, found a spot near Arthur's table. As he sat down, he glanced at Arthur. The old man was so absorbed in the photograph in his hand that he didn't notice Miguel. Miguel pulled out his phone but then saw the photograph in Arthur's hand. Black and white. Military uniforms. Young faces. Miguel's heart began to race. He had seen that photograph before. In his mother's bedroom, in his father's memory box, in the frame on the wall. He put down his phone, tried to look more closely. Arthur slightly turned the photograph and Miguel saw it clearly. 7 young soldiers, shoulder to shoulder. In the middle of the jungle, tired but smiling. And on the far left, a face Miguel had seen thousands of times. His father. Miguel's breath caught. This couldn't be possible. His father was one of the soldiers lost in Vietnam in 1969. Missing in action. His body was never found. Arthur noticed Miguel looking at the photograph. Their eyes met. "Excuse me, sir," Miguel said. His voice was trembling. "That photograph." Arthur paused. For years, no one had questioned his photograph. "Yes. That man, the one on the left, could that be my father?" Arthur's eyes widened. He looked at the photograph, then back at Miguel. "What was his name?" "Sergeant Tommy Rodriguez. 1st Cavalry Division. Lost near Hamburger Hill in 1969. Arthur's hand holding the photograph trembled. "Tommy Rodriguez," he repeated. "Tommy, did you know him?" Arthur looked more carefully at the photograph, then at Miguel. He could see traces of his father in Miguel's face. Same jawline, same eye color, same eyebrows. Are you his son?" "Yes, sir." "Miguel Rodriguez. He died before I was born. Was lost." Arthur took a deep breath. "Sit down, son." Miguel got up and moved to Arthur's table. "When was this photograph taken?" Miguel asked. "May 23, 1969. 2 days before the Hamburger Hill operation." Miguel's eyes filled with tears. "You were there." "I was the platoon leader. These were my men. 7 of them." He stopped. 6 came home. "My father." "Tommy." "Yes. He was one of our best soldiers." There was a long silence. The noise of the coffee shop faded away. Just 2 men, a photograph, and a 50-year-old secret. "What happened that day?" Miguel asked. Arthur closed his eyes. "Ambush. The enemy had far more men than us. Withdrawal order came. Tommy was behind, carrying a wounded buddy. And I went back. I looked for him. Explosions, gunfire. I heard his voice. I'm here, Art, he was shouting. I ran. But Arthur's voice broke. Sir, mortar shell hit through us both. I passed out. When I woke up, the helicopter was picking me up. They couldn't find Tommy. Miguel remained silent. I've blamed myself for 50 years. I could have saved him. What do you mean? Arthur pulled out a small metal piece from his pocket. Old, rusted. This is his dog tag. I found it that day. They couldn't find his body, but this was left behind. Miguel took the metal piece. The writing on it was hard to read, but he could make out the name, Rodriguez, Thomas. Why did you keep this? Because I couldn't bring him home. I wanted to unite at least a part of him with his family. But I couldn't find his family. My mother. Where's your mother? In Los Angeles. She's still alive. Elena Rodriguez. Arthur's eyes lit up. Elena. Tommy always talked about, when the war's over, I'm going to marry Elena, he'd say. They did get married. The news that my father was missing came a month before I was born. Arthur began to cry. I'm sorry, son. I'm so sorry. I could have saved. Miguel held Arthur's hand. Sir, you tried to save. This isn't your fault. My father died as a hero. And so did you. Went back. You tried to find. Arthur gave the dog tag to me. This is your family. Miguel held the metal piece. My mother should see this. She would thank you so much. Could you give it to? Of course. But even Miguel pulled out his phone. Could I introduce you to? Arthur hesitated. I don't. Please. She's also been wondering what happened to my father for 50 years. You could tell her about his last day. Arthur not. Miguel called his mother. The conversation started in Spanish then switched to English. Arthur could hear the surprise, excitement, and pain in Elena's voice as he listened. Mom, someone here wants to talk to. Miguel handed the phone to Arthur. Arthur said, yes, it's you. You knew. Yeah, I was his commanding officer. Arthur called. Elena began to cry. How was he in his last day? He was brave. He was a good soul. And he talked about you a lot. He loved you very much. The conversation lasted 30 minutes. Arthur told about Tommy's last days, what kind of soldier he was, how he got along with his buddy. Elena listened, asked questions, sometimes laughed, sometimes cried. When they hung up, Arthur felt the 50-year burden had light. Thank you, son, he said to Miguel. Knowing my father's story. Do you want to know what happened? Miguel paused. We went back the next day. I found him. He died trying to save his wounded buddy. The bullets took both him and his friend. They both died as heroes. Miguel cried silently. I buried him. I kept the GPS coordinates. If you want. Yes. Yes, I do. 3 months later, Miguel, his mother Elena, and Arthur traveled to Vietnam together. Thanks to Arthur's coordinates, they found Tommy Rodriguez's grave. Unofficial, a simple grave, but it was there. Elena visited her husband's grave for the first time. Arthur told the truth to his friend's family for the first time. Miguel heard his father's courage story for the first time. Arthur is no longer alone when he comes to the coffee shop every morning. Sometimes Miguel comes, sometimes Elena calls. The photograph is still with him, but now he looks at it with pride, not sadness. And the dog tag? It now hangs around Elena's neck, as her husband's final gift. Sometimes the longest journeys begin with a single photograph. Sometimes 50-year-old secrets are solved at a coffee shop table. Arthur Coleman carried guilt for 50 years. But that day he understood that some stories heal when shared, some burdens lighten when divided. Tommy Rodriguez's son now knows how his father died. As a hero, trying to save someone else. And his mother Elena can now imagine her husband's last days, his happy memories. If this story touched you, tell us in the comments. Have you ever experienced such an unexpected family connection? Has someone from the past ever reached out to you? At the Hidden Page Stories, every photograph has a story, every silence has meaning. Because sometimes the most important encounters happen in the most ordinary places.